those who have already filed their taxes, let's make them a little bit nervous. And for those who haven't filed their taxes yet,
let's I filed my taxes already. I'm nervous. And I got a rebate.
let's give people advice on how to avoid an IRS audit. One of the things you say is plain and simple: do the math.
Right. Use a calculator, because here's the headline: the IRS does not investigate you. Doesn't like go through on random and have a lucky dip. They investigate you if they see there's a mistake or there's something erroneous or something unusual. For example, if you have a lot of unusual charitable deductions, if you've moved house and it's worth explaining on your audit why you're doing what you're doing.
And like you said, one of the points you made, which I thought was a good one, this whole idea of unusual deductions. I know in the past that people have written that, you know, if you have like a home office or some other significant deduction, that might be a red flag. Are there certain deductions that are sort of red flags to the IRS?
There are, especially if you are self-employed, because a lot of the deductions you're doing yourself. So if you're self-employed and you're earning between 100 and 200,000 a year, you're 5 times more likely to get audited. If you're earning over $200,000 a year, people audited in that bracket went up 34% last year. If you're earning over $1 million a year, you're 8 times more likely to get audited.
Wow.
So some people say, if you're just
don't
beyond,
be rich then, right?
Yeah,
like
if you're just underneath the million mark, maybe if you can defer some expenses and it's unusual this year, maybe it's worth doing it.
And then tax day is, again, April 17th. And one thing, with the charitable deductions, you said, you know, you can look if you moved homes, and so you had a lot of clothes you got rid of, you donated those. You said you can explain that. Where can you explain that? Because on my tax form, I didn't see any space to say I moved. This is why I donated all these clothes to charity.
You'll have to talk to your accountant, I'm afraid, to figure that out. I'm sure there are. I don't know exactly where in the form, but I'm sure there are places where you can flag them or stick a note on the form itself.
Yeah, one thing I found fascinating in your story, and maybe you can expand on this a little bit, is what's the role of social networks in the audit process?
Right, this is interesting.
Yeah,
social networking, I've written about this a lot, is becoming more important in many areas in terms of insurance fraud, taxation. So you have to be really careful what you put on your Facebook account or what you tweet, particularly because a lot of tweets are public. A lot of people do not make their Twitter accounts private.
So is the idea here, don't tweet, I lied about my deductions, or don't put up pictures that maybe indicate that you're wealthier than maybe you indicated on your tax form,
yeah,
right?
anything that might send a red flag. You would be very surprised. Private investigators, insurance companies, they are monitoring social networks like never before.
And let's say you do get a call from the tax auditor. What do you do? What are the first steps that you take besides freaking out?
you know that shoebox under your bed with all the receipts? You start going through it really quickly and you get help.
Okay.
If you're not sure about your expenses.
And I think there's a quote from an IRS spokesman, which of course, in your story, which of course is...
Thank you for reading it.
Yeah.
You seem to know it better than I do.
Read it very carefully, which seems to be, of course, the thing, be accurate and be thorough, right? And if you do those things, even if you're audited, you're going to be okay.
Right, use a calculator. That's my biggest piece of advice, and it's the most obvious, I'm afraid.